So let's say hypothetically there's a young man here who is dating a young woman who tends to lean very far left.
So, sorry, before you go any further, is she present right now?
No, she is not.
Okay, good, so I can be honest. All right.
So how might, do you have any advice for how this young man might go about exposing her to some new ideas without the relationship crashing and burning?
Oh, you're an optimist. Okay. So, you, my friend, are making a very large mistake. I'm sure she's wonderful. I'm sure she's supremely attractive. I'm sure all of those things. It depends what the relationship is for. Are you in it for marriage, or like you actually have to give me like what's the end goal here?
Yeah, marriage.
Okay, so if you're in it for marriage, then the number one thing you must have in common with your spouse is values. You don't have interests come after values. But most people are interested in lots of things. There are lots of interesting things in the world. Liking the same movies, liking the same art, virtually worthless. What is important is that you have the same value system. So politics are a reflection of values. Now, there are a lot of people who never connect their politics with their values. So you have to determine whether she's politically left because this represents some core values, or just because she's been told a bunch of slogans and now she repeats all these slogans. So when I first dated my wife, for example, my wife thought of herself as pro-choice. And then the more that we discussed the issue, it became very clear to her that she was actually pro-life and hadn't really considered the issue in a serious way. It was just she was told on college campus that it was a good thing to be pro-choice, and so she said she was pro-choice. And the same thing was true of gun rights, for example. She didn't know anything about guns. She'd been told guns were bad, and then when I explained gun rights to her, and when it turned out that her father was a member of the military, then she shifted a little bit. Politics is the tip of the iceberg. The question is whether your girlfriend's politics, or this unnamed person's girlfriend's politics, are a floating bit of flotsam on the top of the ocean, or whether there's actually a structural underpinning for what she's thinking. So you first have to determine that. If there is a structural underpinning, and if she really believes this stuff on a strong level, you're really going to have to think about whether this is something you want to go through for the next 80 years. Because when it comes time to raise your kids, forget about you. Okay, in my view, marriage, not relationships. Marriage is about bearing and rearing children, ideally. Right? My wife and I have 2 children. That is the end goal of marriage. That is the telos of marriage. Marriage was created so that we could bear and raise our children. And that means that we have to have very similar perspectives on how we want to raise our kids. Now, if you want to raise your kid with traditional ideas of virtue and decency, and she wants to raise your kids with traditional ideas of multiculturalism, for example, then and all cultures and all opinions being equal, all behavior being equal, this is going to be a real conflict when it comes time to parent your kids. So you have to ask yourself 2 questions. 1, is she movable? And 2, if she's not movable, what is your end goal here?